Hey gang, what's going on? So you know what's going on. I keep putting up updates on the lockout and the negotiations that are going back and forth. They're renegotiating now. They're back into it, engaged after a couple of days of non-activity. So make sure you subscribe to the channel if you don't want to miss out on the moment that news breaks that the lockout's over. And everything free agency and everything trade that happens after that. You're going to get all that stuff here. So I don't want you to miss it. Make sure you definitely subscribe to that. So today I'm going to talk about something that's basically not lockout related, but post-lockout related. 7 players who I think could be signed as great values. And there's going to be a lot of players who, there's going to be your monster contracts still. There'll be guys like Boras clients who are going to wait out free agency in a lot of circumstances. And some might not, but some most likely they do because that's what Boras does. So my next video is going to go over 7 guys that will definitely not be taking a discount or whatever, or we're going to maximize their contract. Today I'm going to talk about 7 guys who are going to be great values. So for a lot of teams, particularly, and some of these guys will be great values for the Yankees. So before I do that, I want to send a special shout out and a thank you to Joey Caputo. If you guys don't know who he is, he has a great, fantastic YouTube channel that's called The Shift. Talks about the Yankees all the time. Yes, he also addresses other teams and talks about some other things baseball, but it's predominantly a Yankee channel. Fantastic content. He's a well-rounded guy, very knowledgeable, got a great personality. He's just an overall great dude, and he's got a fantastic channel, which is on the rise. So go take a look at him, and if you enjoy it, please hit the support his channel by subscribing as well. I'm going to link his channel down below. Our video, he came on as a guest. Our video is going to come out on Monday, so I hope you guys enjoy it. So let's get into these 7 guys. Number 1, Eddie Rosario. He's somebody I mentioned for a couple months now as a guy who I think would be a great fit on the Yankees. The Yankees they lost a lot of, they gave up a lot of their speed and athleticism, right? And a lot of those guys were in the outfield. Greg Allen, Tim LeCastro, and you had Tyler Wade who could play the outfield. So they lost a lot of athleticism. He's an athletic player. He's got a great defensive profile. He's also a clutch hitter in the postseason. He was fantastic, help being an integral part of that Braves championship team this past year. And again, he's got a solid contact hitter. He's got speed. He does all the little things, okay, which are a lot of things that the Yankees need. And again, they have some big dudes in the outfield right now. Estevan Florio might be their fourth outfield. They also brought in Ender Inciarte on a minor league deal. That might pan out. But Eddie Rosario, I think, would represent a great fit here. And in a situation where they won't have to break the bank. I think I can see them getting him on a 1 or 2 year deal. Them or somebody else. But I think he would be a good fit, and he would not wait out the free agent market to extract a large contract. So he would be a wise signing, I think, for the Yankees. Number 2, one of his teammates in the Braves, Jock Peterson. He's been clutch everywhere. Clutch in the postseason with the Dodgers. He was clutch in the postseason with the Braves. Another solid player with a good contact hitting profile. He also has power. He's clutch in the postseason. He's got a lefty bat, and the Yankees need lefty bats. And again, somebody who could represent an outfielder as well. I don't know if he plays multiple positions as well as Eddie Rosario does, but he would still be a good fit in a lot of places. The Brewers, and you can even bring him to small market teams like the Royals and teams like that. Even the Cardinals he might be an underrated fit there. Or you send him to Colorado, and he can hit some bombs over in Colorado. So he represents a solid value in a lot of teams. And for a while, I thought he would at some point would sign this monster contract, but he hasn't done so yet. And I think he's going to wind up probably with another 1 or 2 year deal, maybe a 3 year deal with a team on a very reasonable rate. And again, I think he'd be a great value no matter where he goes. So he's number 2. Number 3 is Michael Conforto, kind of an underrated player. He was pretty solid player with the Mets, like another good contact hitter. He's got power, good defensive profile as well, and a guy that I don't think the Mets are going to bring back. So he would represent a good fit. And there was chatter about him potentially being maybe a fit at the Yankees. Yeah, maybe. But he can go to other places too. He can go to Boston. He can go to he can go to Houston. He can go to quite a few teams. Maybe even an underrated team like the Tampa Bay Rays, if they're willing to spend a little bit. And a bunch of other teams too. I keep going back to Milwaukee. Milwaukee could use another bat. The Marlins could use a bat. The Marlins could use Jock. They could use Conforto. They could use both of them. So they need offense. So he's another guy who would represent the fit. I think he's going to get a solid contract. It's not going to be over the moon, but it'll be a good value no matter what. So he's number 3 for me. I'm going to go back to Atlanta Braves for number 4, Jorge Solera, another power guy. He was an American League home run leader a couple years ago with the Royals. He was another power option here with the Braves, another integral piece helping them win the championship this past year. Those 3 guys, Solera, Peterson, and Rosario, they represented a lot of good role player representatives with the Braves this year, and acquired at midseason in a trade And he was a good solid fit. He hit some big time home runs down to the end of the stretch and in the postseason. So he, I think, as a guy, would be another great fit. And again, with the National League adopting a DH, his options are even more robust because he's generally, he would be a solid DH. You could send him to Miami. You can send him to a bunch of places, even Milwaukee. Again, other teams too. And I think he's going to be he's going to wind up getting a reasonable contract. I don't see any of these guys getting $100 million deals at this point, or $100 million plus. So, and I think these guys will bring good value. And again, he's got a good power profile. He's a solid outfielder, but I think he's probably going to be transitioning more into a DH at some point. He's still relatively young, but he offers a team flexibility and definitely a great offensive boost. Number 5, Kyle Schwarber, and he was fantastic with the Cubs, as we know. He was solid with the Red Sox, too, when he went over there. So back to his power. When he's healthy, he's got legitimate power numbers, and he's another guy who I think is going to wind up with like a 1 or 2 year deal, maybe a 3 year deal. He's not going to get a $100 million contract from anybody. I'd be shocked if he did. I know there's talk, the Cubs have been talking about maybe bringing him back, or Anthony Rizzo. And there's some other guys too, but I think he'd be a great fit to go back to Boston. He'd be a great fit in other areas, or a National League team, again, as a DH, because he's not a great defensive player. So he'd be a perfect DH with 15 new DH spots opening up in the National League. The possibilities have increased significantly for Kyle Schwarber. So I think he'd be a good value. Number 6, Trevor Story. He's one of the top shortstops that were available. Him and Carlos Correa. I mean, you had Baez, you had some other, Marcus Simeon too. And again, to me, he has the most complete offensive profile of them. And I'm not talking about just power numbers like Simeon or Corey Seager. He has a balanced offensive approach across the board. He steals bases. He's a solid contact hitter. He's an elite defender too, and he'd be a good solid player no matter where he goes. And again, he'll offer a lot of teams an upgrade in the infield. And I could see this going 2 ways. Him getting a big deal of upwards, and I hear people saying $200 million. I can't see it. I could see him getting a 2 year deal at a high dollar value, and really giving a team a boatload of return on investment. I could also see him as a fit for the Yankees if they happen to trade Oswald Peraza in a trade for, let's just say, Matt Olson or something like that. He'd be a good fit in a lot of different places. And again, I don't think he's going to break the bank unless some team's willing to overpay him dramatically. Okay, but to me, he's going to represent a great value at shortstop, and the ability to maybe move over to second base should he need to do that. He's my number 6. And lastly is Brad Miller. This guy was an underrated gem. He came with the Phillies this year. Like, where did he come from? Out of nowhere. But he was a fantastic option. And again, with the National, and he's not a DH guy because he can play multiple positions. He's a good, solid contact hitter. He's got significant power, which he showed this year. And he's a good, solid defensive player too. And this guy's going to represent, I think he's a lot of fits too, like St. Louis, Milwaukee, Miami. I mean, a bunch of fits in American League too. You can go to teams that are kind of wanting to be on the rise. Detroit. He can go to Houston. He can come to the Yankees. He can come to a lot of teams. He can go to the Mets. He would represent a good contact hitting guy at a great value, I think, for any of these teams. So these are my 7 guys who I think would represent great values who are probably not going to break the bank this offseason. You guys let me know. There's probably a bunch of other guys. There's 300 plus guys that are going to sign, so that need to sign. So I'm sure there's going to be a boatload of other guys that turn out to be great values, but these guys kind of stood out to me. My next video, I'm going to talk about the 7 guys who are definitely not going to be, having signed on the cheap. So you're not going to want to miss that. So make sure you subscribe. Thanks for watching, everybody. Have a great week, and I'll talk to you next time.